Today on the DML News Podcast, we have reached day 100 of the Trump presidency. A little bit like yesterday, we'll review some of what's happened, but more importantly, what needs to happen going forward. Get ready, Denny's back in the office here, and we're ready to rock and roll, and we're all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Sitting next to me is my son, Denny. He's back in the studio after many days of shipping out BOGO orders. I might as well say that right off the bat. Today and tomorrow, last days for DML CBD. Buy one, get one free. We'll not have another event like this where it's the site-wide BOGO. We'll not have it again until the end of July. Build your bridge if you're an existing customer. If you are not an existing customer, you're making a grave mistake. Go to dmlcbd.com. Take a look at all the products we have. If you want to boost your immune system, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you are somebody who is dealing with a lot of anxiety, if you've got a lot of aches and pains, if you've got skin issues, DML CBD has been there for customers of all ages with all types of problems. We have changed tens of thousands of lives. You can be the next person. And the great news is that we have the Ferrari of CBD products. Most everything that we have is double tested. It's tested as an ingredient, and then it's the double test is then when it becomes a formulated product, we test it before we sell it. So it's safe. It is effective, and it is the Ferrari of CBD. The exception here is when you buy one, get one free, you're paying Kia prices. So if you buy correctly, because we do these BOGOs a couple times a year, you never have to pay full price. We have customers who just basically buy everything they need at BOGO time, and they're good to go for many, many, many months. So join the people who have changed their lives. I'm telling you right now, you can be one of them. dmlcbd.com. Ryan is across from me on the controls. We've got some videos here for you today. We're going to start off with a video, and then I'm going to put my monologue to the back. We are going to show you a radical Indian Democrat who says that Trump needs to be impeached. So he's put together articles of impeachment. You ready for the video, Ray? Play it.
This is Congressman Shri Thanedar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Kilmer Garcia must be allowed to return and receive due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution. He ignored the very checks and balances that keep our democracy intact. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a dangerous, deliberate pattern. That's why today I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump, outlining 7 articles of impeachment.
I'm sorry, man. I watched that. You could call me whatever you want. I don't give a rat's ass. This guy comes here from India, right? He's hanging out over there in Michigan. Michigan is the toilet bowl of the United States when it comes to, hey, why don't we have Sharia law? He represents the 13th District, Dearborn, Michigan, which is more like taking a vacation in the deserts of Iraq. I mean, Dr. Slurpee there. I mean, I have no idea what makes this dude tick. Send this guy back. Send him back. And you know what? If he was an Irishman talking with an Irish brogue and saying the same thing, I'd say send him back. We don't need you. Go back to Dublin. If he was an Italian, I'd say send him back to Rome. Let him, go back there. If he was German, I'd say send him back to wherever it is that he's from, Germany. This dude, send him back. Send him back to India. We don't need him. I mean, think about this for a second. If you want to see how immigration has absolutely destroyed your country, There you go, right there. We have given the ability for people to come over here from other places around the world, infect our cities and states, because that's what it is. If I take it, look, I take you to Dearborn. I've been to Dearborn, okay? I say it all the time. If I were to blindfold you and give you a sedative and then wake you up and shake your arm and say, hey, Carol, hey, wake up. Or, hey, Kevin, wake up, wake up. Guess where we are? And I took you on a 3-block trip. You'd be like, oh my God, how long are we on the plane for? Are we in Yemen? Are we in Syria? Where is this? No, you're in Michigan, baby. I mean, this is who we're electing. It's a travesty. It is an absolute travesty. And this is the lead to what Trump needs to do. I'm going to be very bold here. Okay? I'm not going to hold back anything in terms of the Trump presidency. Yesterday, I was very, very direct on, hey, President Trump has done a really good job in the first 100 days. But I told you that when I think of the 100 days, if I had to write a book and I had to put a title on top of that book, I would call the book The Resistance. Because the first 100 days of Trump's presidency has been nothing other than idiots like this dude pushing back on what is, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest American agenda ever put on paper. Notwithstanding maybe when George Washington and our early founders were together, we have found ourselves a guy who wants to bring us back to the principles that made America great. And then we get schmucks like this. We don't need them. Why are we taking these people in? I mean, look, if you want to be there and have your liberalisms and your Indian-based faith, go to India. Do something in India. Why do you need to come to the United States of America? I'll tell you why. Because there is a deep, dark belief that you can destroy the United States from within. You don't have to lift off a nuclear missile. You don't need the launch pad for that. You don't need to take over an airplane and crash it into another set of towers. All you have to do is take over academia, take over the government, take over the media. Slowly but surely, you're going to own the country. And this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. This is the sort of thing I'm talking about. I know what you're saying. You're saying, who votes for a guy like that? Other people like him. That's what it is. You can't take in 1.2 million people per year legally every single year and think that you're going to keep your country intact. You just can't do it. It's one of the reasons why Trump was offering $5,000, the idea of $5,000 for new mothers. Come on, let's go. Let's get some births going on here. I talk about it all the time with my sons about how expensive it is to live in America, what have you. So what am I going to tell you today? 100 days. We have the most secure border of my lifetime. If that's the only thing we've got accomplished, it's a huge accomplishment. In 99 days, we have been able to essentially stop the crossings. I know Dennis has some numbers. You had it today on the 47 report.
I do.
The comparison of what it was between Trump and Biden. Give me those numbers.
Yeah, so daily encounters under Biden were at 10,000.
A day.
Daily, in terms of daily encounters, it was at 10,000. And yet, just this weekend alone, you're looking at 178 this past weekend. So,
178.
Yeah.
We went from 10,000 to 178.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
another-
even says,
there was-
migrant shelters are closing as catch and release numbers have dropped 99.99%. And cartels are struggling to find customers.
And there was another number.
Gotaways from
Gotaways.
1,800 to only 38.
Gotaways. So what a gotaway is, and that's sort of that's a tough number. I don't ever put a lot of faith into that number, but it tells a story. A gotaway is somebody who said, I'm crossing over and I'm going to outrun the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol ain't going to be able to catch me. The thing about gotaways is there are numbers of gotaways that we don't even see.
Right.
All right. So that number is going to be escalated. But in terms of the visual gotaway, the number is non-existent, which basically means that nobody's trying to come over anymore because they realize the party is over.
I was going to say too, and even with deportations, I mean, I know you and I always say we would love those numbers to skyrocket, but one thing that I have to try and remind myself is that when you look at previous administrations like Obama, like Biden, they would count deportations, including those that came to the border and were turned around. So when you have effectively a border that's completely closed up and locked tight, all of Trump's deportations are actual deportations,
Legit.
meaning
Yep.
they're sending in ICE, federal authorities to cities, getting those people and deporting them. Whereas basically Obama was cooking the books saying, someone who came to the border and was turned around in 20 minutes, that's a deportation. Is it really though? Like the real ones are the ones that are embedded within our countries and our towns. And I love what they're doing on the White House lawn, which I know we'll get into later, but they are essentially doing actual deportations.
Yeah, I mean, so people, just a little more clarity to what you talked about without going down too long of an explanation. Barack Obama changed the definition of a deportation. If you are somebody from Mexico, the Mexican national who tries to come over into the United States, we don't have to go through a deportation process with them. We can literally take them back to the international bridge, say, all right, Paco, go back over the bridge and you're back. We that was called a turnaround. Just you send him back. If Paco tries to come over 5 times and we send him back on that bridge 5 times, that was never counted before. Obama took that 5-time Paco day because Paco kept on trying to do it. We caught him every time. Obama counted that as 5 deportations. That is not a deportation. And what Dennis is saying, we have a huge difference between what Trump is doing in a deportation and what it was that Obama was trying to do it. And the crazy thing is that Obama did it in part because they called him the deporter in chief. They made it sound like Obama wanted to deport all these people. And it's just so far away from that. The entire premise of Barack Obama's presidency was to fundamentally transform the United States of America. In his own words, he said that. And how do you do that? He wanted 2 things. He wanted to create a nation to where we were filled with migrants. It does everything in terms of his agenda. Number 1, it creates a voter bloc of dependency. Number 2 is it waters down the brain of America. It puts us at a level to where we're not very smart when compared to other nations. Number 3, it would be Democrats forever, right? And then, of course, he wanted to create Obamacare, which would be a dependency, almost a socialized medicine, if you will, where everybody in the country was entitled to get the medicine and the health care that people who pay for insurance do. He wanted to have this out there for everybody. And why? Because healthcare is the number 1 cost to this country, and it would bankrupt us and it would make us less powerful. That was the plan of Barack Obama. He did not get his amnesty in. He did not get his open borders as open as he wanted it to. So Trump comes in, slows that whole thing down, and then Biden comes in and finishes the fundamental transformation, right? From vice president to president, he finishes the story for Barack Obama. Now we've got Donald J. Trump saying we're going to stop that. And the courts have not been able to do anything because what Trump has done so far to stop the craziness at the border, most of it was just tough rhetoric before he even got into the presidency, Dennis. It was tough talk. You are going to get deported. You are going to lose your money. The party is over. You're not coming in here. And people said, why am I going to do this? I'm not going to pay the cartels $5,000 and then only be deported. I'm stopping. So he was able to do that. And that's why the courts, what are the courts going to do? They say you're not allowed to talk. So that's why that's been able to go, because the courts can't intervene. In terms of the deportations, this is something that we need to talk about now going forward. After 100 days, there's certain things that Trump has to do. And the deportations of this country has to go on accelerated rate. The courts are going to try to get into his way. And what I say is screw the courts. Let the courts try to argue this for years to come. Meanwhile, we're ridding of these people.
Yeah, it's Ann Fitzpatrick here says Obama was the worst thing that happened to this country, and I 1,000% agree, because just how you say it, right? The fundamental transformation, and in certain ways, unfortunately, Obama has exceeded. Look at the idiot we just played on the screen here, the Indian guy. He went through a process to come to this country, a process that should be very valued, and you should be honored if you are actually able to successfully immigrate here. And instead of maybe honoring that value, he's going to go and impeach the president because he's trying to establish credibility to our immigration system after, basically decades of abuse. Personally, I think we need to get something in law that anyone born in a foreign country, I know we have it for the presidency, but anyone born in a foreign country shouldn't be even allowed to run for office because at this point, you got Ilhan Omar, who we know her allegiances totally line up more with Somalia than they do the US. And you have to wonder, why are we electing these people if their interests are for foreign nations or for foreign endeavors and not for the actual country that gave them a home in the first place? It's just, when you hear some idiot like that and knowing that his impeachment is not going to go anywhere, at least for now, it makes me annoyed because I think Obama really established the introduction there that someone who does immigrate from Somalia or India can be the leader in a district or a state. And I think that's just so wrong on many levels.
With today being day 100, it's really, it's one of these media-driven things. There's no difference between day 97 or day 107. The idea, though, is that the first 100 days is going to set the pace for what you can expect from this administration. So this first 100 days is really just an arbitrary number. It's just another example for the media to just bloviate and take things way out of proportion. I mean, if you went in the New York Times today, they have a whole thing about Trump's first 100 days, and they break it down from immigration, foreign policy, imperialism, social media, culture, tariffs and trade, economy, diversity and equity, retribution, and the federal government. There is not one thing in all of that, if you went through to the New York Times, that says anything about a bright spot. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. In fact, the way they make the border sound is as if this is, the KKK has been unleashed at the border. It's just unbelievable. I'm going to read you something from Axios, far left Axios. For some reason, Axios is always given a lot of access to the White House. If I were Trump, and this is something I would do for the next 100 days, next 200 days, stop dealing with these people. Do not give them an interview. Do not let anybody in your administration to give them an interview. They have to become irrelevant. You have to force the American people to find their news in other ways. The only way to do that is to make these liberal stations, these liberal outlets, irrelevant. If they can't get access to the people of the administration, they can't report. And then what they're going to do is they're going to have to report off other people's reports. Give the access only to Fox News and to Newsmax and to Breitbart and to the DML News app and to the Daily Caller. I mean, the list is the Gateway Pundit. The list is very long in terms of the outlets who reach lots of people, and we can dominate the narrative. I don't think Trump has learned his lesson here. I think this is one of the places where his ego gets in the way. So let me read to you what it is that Axios says about the first 100 days, because this is apropos for what it is that the liberals are selling around the world. Today is day 100. President Trump charged into office at the peak of his powers, more popular, more disciplined, more ambitious than ever. But after months of mega shock and awe, the illusion of invincibility is fading. Storm clouds are darkening this milestone day, which his team hoped would be a showcase for his history-making second term. There's no question that Trump's first 100 days have been enormously consequential, but compare today's status quo to the MAGA triumphism on display from November through January. Polling. 1 week after his inauguration, Trump's approval rating peaked at 52%. Today, his average approval mark has slid to 44%. Many CEOs believed Trump when he promised a new golden age, but his chaotic tariff rollout has blindsided corporate America, roiled global markets, dragged down consumer confidence, and raised the risk of a recession. With immigration, Trump's day one border crackdown has thrilled his supporters, with the White House eager to spend day 100 highlighting its high-profile deportations of alleged migrant criminals. But cracks are beginning to emerge as the courts restrain his powers and voters raise concerns over violations of due process. As far as Doge goes, Elon Musk was a permanent fixture in the early weeks of the administration, but he quickly became a political liability. His mass firings and chaotic rehiring of some federal workers are now estimated to have cost taxpayers $135 billion, wiping out most of the $160 billion that Doge claims it saved. In his first 100 days, President Trump has delivered on hundreds of promises and already accomplished his two most important campaign goals. The border is secure and inflation is ending. That's what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a statement. So if you look at this, Dennis, the left is proposing the idea that everything that Trump has done has been an epic fail, that CEOs are just up and uncertain about everything that's to come. And yet that's so far from being true. The stock market had a very, very bad 1 week run, of which it has picked back up a lot of what it lost. And everything that Trump is putting into place, these tariffs, these are not overnight solutions. This is not something to where on Monday you could say, we're closing the borders, and on Tuesday, nobody comes in. This is an ebb and flow, and an ebb and flow of the economy. Anybody my age or older, even maybe a few years younger, you have been in so many different economies before. They take a while to ramp up. They take a while to slow down. We have had a horrible run with inflation for 4 years under Joe Biden. And if you think after 100 days, just everything's going to go back to the way it was peachy keen, you can't do that. You have to remember what Trump is fixing here. And I think this is a major component to what we're talking about going forward. We're not just talking about 4 years of bad Biden economics. You had Biden economics, which followed COVID. COVID took what was the best economy I had ever seen in my lifetime, took it into a complete halt. You went from having bustling main streets, bustling malls, bustling Amazon.com record days. Everything in the economy was going great. Hires, raises, everybody was working, all races, all ages, you name it. COVID comes in, shuts it down. You're not allowed to leave your house. I remember to this day, the day I bought my boat. I drove from East Hampton, New York, which is all the way on the east end of Long Island. I went through the Long Island Expressway, which is usually bumper to bumper. There was nobody on the road. I got through Manhattan. Nobody was on the road. I went up to I-95 through Connecticut because I had to go all the way to Boston. Nobody on the road. It seemed like a bad Steven Spielberg movie. We did that in a matter of a week. So think about all the businesses that shuttered and all the businesses that suffered. And then what happens? Biden comes in. We've had 6 years of absolute hell. And you think this man's going to change this in 100 days? He is laying the foundation of what will be the greatest economy of our lifetime, if not the history of the United States. But it is going to take some time.
Yeah, I would have liked to see the New York Times ask those same CEOs how they probably would have felt if we had Kamala Harris in office. I think we would all be quite literally shaking in our boots. You know, I mean, it's like seeing a company that is just failing and failing each and every time, and you're like, okay, we need to bring someone in who's going to really make a change up. The change up is going to be a shake up for everyone, maybe a little bit jostling, but at the same time, it's the kind of change up that's going to get everything in the right direction. And I'm sure you could probably name it off the top of your head the amount of companies that, you know, were maybe flailing at first, and then they brought in the new guy, and next thing you know, the company's succeeding and it's better than ever before. So with Trump, that is kind of the role that he's been giving here. And while not everything is going to be agreed upon, I say it every time I'm on the podcast or when I host solo, I am beyond thankful that it is him in the office and not someone like Kamala Harris, because she's someone who wouldn't know what to do in the first 100 days. So for Trump, you know, he's been down this road before, and just like you brought up, I mean, his first presidency sincerely got railroaded by two things: rhinos and COVID. I mean, COVID, besides the fact that it shut down businesses, think about all the stories we read of people abusing those PPP loans that they were giving out, and just the psychological damage that's been done to an entire generation of kids who were taken out of school, had to wear a mask 24/7 and then put into virtual learning. I mean, it's the kind of event that I think really changes a whole generation. So, Trump, at least on this second time around, isn't going to fall for a lot of that BS. He's trying his best to navigate not only the issues domestically, but as you pointed out on the podcast yesterday, the issue with Ukraine and Russia, the issue with Israel and Hamas, the issue with is China going to eventually agree to work out a trade deal, or are they just going to go AWOL and invade Taiwan? I mean, he's got a lot of fires that he's got to put out on the international front, and then obviously what he's got to deal with in the country too.
So I asked yesterday on Facebook if people would give me comments about what it is that they think Trump has done and what it is they think he needs to do. I'm going to read a couple of these here and we could comment about it. There is a lady named Deborah Gianotti, and she says he needs to set Congress straight and get them moving on passing legislation. That will help Trump get his agenda up and running. Congress also needs to defund these corrupt leftist judges so they stop interfering. Trump is doing a great job, even though these evil people are trying to stop him. I'm only going to focus on the first part of what she says here, Dennis, because Congress isn't funding these corrupt local judges. But let's go into he needs to set Congress straight and get them moving on passing legislation. So when I think about the next 100 days, the next 1,000 days, whatever it may be, whatever number you want to put on it, I don't think a number is really that important. But I think immediately Trump has to sit down with the members of the House. He's got to sit down with the members of the Senate on the GOP side, and he has to say to them, if we do not align 100% as a party, if we do not get behind the MAGA movement, we are going to lose. We're going to lose the midterms. You guys are going to go from maybe not even having a job to at least, if nothing else, having no power. What's the point of being in the Senate if you don't have the House? You're not going to be able to pass anything. If you're just here for the free ride of being able to have a couple of Fox News hits, write a book, all that other stuff, you know what? Get out of the way. Let somebody else get in there. But the other thing I would do if I were Trump, and I don't think he does this. I think he goes into these meetings with these people, from at least from what I've read and I've heard. He's very congenial. Even the people who don't treat him the nicest, he brings them in because what he tries to do is he tries to capture them with honey, because you get more bees with honey than you will tar paper. But here's the problem. When he gives them the nice little warm and fuzzy, it lasts for a while, but then the novelty wears off and he gets caught up in doing something else. I would do just the opposite. And even if it's called threatening, I don't give a rat's ass. I would call, let's just use, for a perfect example, the senator out of Kentucky, the guy who used to specialize in eyes, and now he specializes in pushing back on Trump. I'm talking about Rand Paul. I would bring Rand Paul into my office and say, listen to me. Here's the deal, man. You didn't endorse me in 2024. You didn't endorse me. You didn't sit at my side. You didn't have my back when we're going up against Kamala Harris. Therefore, my thought is this. You are not a real conservative. You are not a real Republican. You are, we all know, a libertarian. And I think ultimately you're a leftist. All right. So here's the deal. If you don't get behind me 100%, and I don't mean only when you go on your Fox News hits, I mean all your tweets and, more importantly, all your votes. If you are not behind the Trump train 100%, I am going to do everything in my power to ensure that your political career is finished. You can take it as a threat. I don't care how you take it. You become my adversary. I see you as being no different than the guy who's trying to file impeachment papers against me. If you are not going to get on board, then I am going to throw you off the plank. I am telling you, every politician in D.C., whether they love Trump, hate Trump or not, they respect the amount of power he has with the electorate. And there will be fear. And so somebody like Rand Paul is going to go home and he's going to say to his wife, you know, I don't believe in everything he does, but I better get behind it because I'm never going to have a chance to run for president again myself. I'm never going to be able to continue on with this never-ending I'm a senator routine I've been profiting off if I don't align with this guy. I could always change my colors later on when he's done. But for right now, if nothing else, I'll just lay low and I'll vote according to what it is his agenda is. That is what he has to do. And in fact, I would do it in a group. Why waste time? Get them all in. Get me every single person who has voted against me. Get me every single person who has tweeted against me. Get me every single person who's had any kind of interview on television that doesn't sound like it's totally pro 110% Trump. Get them in here in the Oval Office. I'm going to do this all at once. I'll name them all out. We could videotape it. We'll do the whole 9 yards and we'll play it.
You know, it's interesting too, because obviously with a lot of these senators, it comes down to, I think, a lot of their own self-interest, because clearly Rand Paul is almost just like an obstructionist to Trump's agenda. But you got to think about how, Trump's first run when he did those debates, I mean, he really handed to all of those idiots, right? He stumped them. I mean, think about it. They run as politicians, they articulate their image, they go through all the processes to get there, like, all right, I'm ready to run for president. And then the outlier comes in. The man who never was in politics says, I'm going to run for office and I'm going to show that all of you guys are absolute clowns. And he did it. I mean, what was it? He was going against like 12 of them at first. So I feel like some of these guys just have years long vendettas. I mean, some of them have been able to bury it. I mean, think about how antagonistic he and Ted Cruz used to be. I mean, really could not get along. And now Ted Cruz realizes, okay, this is what the people want, or this is who the people actually want, not me. Let me see what I can do to actually work with Trump. But then you got Rand Paul here, who just continues to be kind of a thorn in the side. And you would have to imagine that, considering the people of Kentucky did vote for Trump to become president, that he would try to work for the will of the people and get Trump's agenda to really kickstart and get going, because it's very frustrating. It always happens with the Republicans. I'll give it to the Democrats. They always coalesce, they always unify. But Republicans, we always have to, kind of keep the one eye out, like who's going to be a rhino, who's going to have that self-interest, and who's going to be, overall just an obstructionist.
The other thing I'd like to see Trump do, and I think if you take what it is that we just both said, and you can apply it here, one of the things that's really problematic, and I'm not sure the American people are completely in the know of this. They've probably heard about it before. Everybody's heard the word pork. So a lot of these bills are always filled with pork, right? Here's how it works. Dennis is the representative of, let's say, New York. He's in a Republican district. And I am the congressman here in Indian River County in Florida. And we know each other, all right? I mean, geez, you could even say father and son. Let's not change it at all. Dennis moves back to New York. He's the congressman in District 1, where we used to live, and I'm the congressman here. I want to create a bill. I want to have a bill that says mandatory E-Verify has to be in place. Now, if I really want to create a bill that is simple and easy to understand, I could literally do it in one sentence. The bill reads, mandatory E-Verify is exactly what it says. It is mandatory for every single business to use the United States government's E-Verify system to ensure that no people who are undocumented that are here in the country illegally are able to obtain a job. And if they do, the employer will be held accountable. There you go. One sentence, the whole 9 yards. That's how you start the bill. I could go to Ryan Lynch, who is a congressman here in Florida as well. And I say, Ryan, what do you think of this bill? And Ryan says, I'll tell you what, I like you, Bill, but let's expand it with a bullet point that says that if a company does not use mandatory E-Verify and is caught doing so, there is a $10,000 penalty per employee. Okay, great, I'll add that to the bill. And we add that to the bill. Now, what that doesn't do, that doesn't expand out the bill, right? It just says, all right, we're taking the premise and we're going to define it a little bit more. But now I come up to you in New York and I say to you, hey, listen, I know you have a lot of wineries where it is that you are. And I know you have a lot, you're out in the Hamptons and there's a lot of illegal aliens out there. And Dennis says to me, listen, it's going to be hard for me to pitch E-Verify to my constituency because they're relying on this kind of labor. And I say to him, It doesn't matter. That labor has to go home. And Dennis says, I'm never going to win another election. If I take away these illegal aliens and I make mandatory e-verify, I'm never going to get it again. And then I say, oh, all right. Dennis says, I will support your bill. However, let's follow what Governor DeSantis did, to where we say it's mandatory for all companies with 25 or above employees. 24 and below, you don't have to do it. Now what's starting to happen, I'm compromising, because Dennis is bought and paid for by all the people that are out there in the East End of Long Island. Even though it's a conservative stronghold, he is compromised. He got his donations from a lot of the home builders, from a lot of the wineries, from a lot of the home services that all rely on illegal alien labor. That's where he got his money from. So now he's going to come to me and he's going to say, look, I can still go with this bill, but we've got to change its design. I know I can't get it through the House without Dennis and the other people like him. So now what happens, instead of having a 1-sentence or 2-sentence bill with a couple of bullet points that give real descriptors, now I start changing my bill, watering my bill down, so this way I can get his vote. Then it becomes even worse. Then we go to Kentucky and we try to get Mr. Massey, and Mr. Massey says, oh, no. I can't even do it for 24 and down. We need to take out anybody who's in the food and agriculture business, because my number one donor pool is the food packaging companies. So now all of a sudden I've got a bill that says basically mandatory e-verify for people who have medical centers. I mean, that's where it's down to. And so we go, and then even if we can pass it, all right, even if Trump signs it into law, it's meaningless. So what has to happen in this particular case is that Trump and the people of the House, because that's where this stuff is all going to start, or even in the Senate, we need to sit down and say, this kid right here, he may have won his election, but he's not one of us long term if he does not align and he does not stand up to those special interests. That's it. There's no other way about it. Either Dennis is going to be on board with us on this bill, or we're going to get him out. That's the way it's got to be. And Trump has to dictate that. None of us here in America understand. By the time that those bills, that's why you say, why do you need a 3,000-page bill? Because every person has put in something in it. Then you go to the left, or then you go to the most radical people, and they say, whoa, wait a second. How are we going to fund this? We're going to need money for this mandatory e-verify, because we're going to need training and everything else like that. So we're going to need money for this. All right, well, let's try to appropriate $100 million. So then we go to somebody and says, whoa, wait a second. If you want my signature, I've been asking for a new water tower in my district that the federal government wouldn't have to put some money towards. Give me $10 million towards my new windmill or my new water mill, and I'll say yes. So now all of a sudden the bill goes from being $100 million to $110 million, because we got to fund some water processing plant who needs a windmill that has nothing to do with mandatory e-verify. But it's going to be snuck in that bill, because the only way we're going to get the vote from this guy is that he gets what he needs for $10 million. And that's why you get these bills that blow up, and that's why we never get any legislation. Let's just go down to a 1-sentence, 2-sentence, 1-paragraph at most, very distinct, very easy to understand. This is the bill. Nothing else is being added to it. Either you sign it, you support it, or you're out.
I agree. I mean, think about it, right? When you read a 100-page book, it maybe takes you a good week if you're an avid reader, or maybe shorter. But when you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of legislation, how are we supposed to be, I don't know, comprehensive enough to know what the ramifications are, or things in the legislation that almost like in a hypocritical stance, like cancel each other out? So I would love it if we could get legislation that kind of kills pork barrel, legislation in general, because I think too, when you have more streamlined bills that are just more clarified and clear, I think that's when you get people, or the American people, to have more trust in what you're doing legislatively. Because when you do introduce these ridiculous bills, right, they always jump on Fox News or some media show, and they come with the giant packet, like, well, this is the latest bill that's trying to be passed. And you're like, what's going on here? Why are we, having stacks of paper of that significance? And the truth is, it's just like you said, it's people with special interests trying to wedge their way into legislation, and that shouldn't be the case. I always say it, when you're becoming a senator, when you're becoming a representative, it needs to be, okay, I am putting everything in my life on the back burner because I am submitting myself to the will of the American people. It's like when we talked about all those women representatives up in arms about oh, proxy voting, because what if I have a baby? Like, okay, well, that's the what if. Your job here is supposed to be a temporary job, so to say. You're in for 4 to 6 years or however long it is, or two, and focus in. What does your district need? What does your state need? What does the American people need? And how, as a representative or a senator, can I achieve that? And what, by the way, does the president of my party need so that I can get his agenda accomplished and fast tracked?
With the last 15 minutes here, I want to talk about getting into specifics about what Trump can do or what Trump has to do going forward. If you disagree with me, or if you're taking in comments on Facebook and Rumble and Team DML, if we see any good comments there, read them back on the live feed. But I'd like to break this down and let's do this. I'll write this down right here. All right. I think that the three biggest things that Trump has to deal with, all right, I have it right here. And I'm going to go from 1 to 3, 1 being the least important. All right. I've already said it. I'm going to say it again. When Trump and Caroline Leavitt took over the White House, she went into the press room and made a big to-do about how the press and how the administration was going to open up the front row seat, so to say, to more alternative media. When President Trump was running for president, he wasn't spending as much time on Fox News and Newsmax and traditional media. He was going to bigger podcast plays. Joe Rogan, you name it. The list was long, right? He abandoned that. I feel like they abandoned that. They went back to their old habits, and that is a great mistake. So, as I said in the beginning of the show, and I'm going to reiterate here, after day 100, there needs to be a new media approach. We never do any interviews with the mainstream media. Nobody in our administration does any media hits at all. Judges can't do anything about that. They cannot demand that we make ourselves available to go on CBS Morning News. We don't have to go on Meet the Press. We don't have to go on 60 Minutes. Let's eliminate these people. By eliminating them and by ignoring them, we send them into oblivion. They become irrelevant. Let's force the issue of the American consumer to have to use new alternative means of news where you know you're going to get the truth, where you know you're going to get the ability, and I mean you being the White House representative, you're going to get the ability to actually voice your concerns and what you are doing, your accomplishments, without having the interference of a leftist ideology trying to take you down. Not even trying to keep you honest, trying to take you down. Trust me when I tell you, Dennis Michael Lynch, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, all of us are. I am not going to let Marco Rubio sit across from me in an interview and tell me that Iran no longer has nuclear power. I will go at him, right? So I'm not going to let him lie to me, but I'm not going to try to trip him up like the leftists do. So number one thing for the Trump administration to do, and I'd love to hear people, if they have anything to say about this on Facebook, say it, but I want to hear from you, Dennis. I want the media approach to change. Get rid of CBS, get rid of NBC and ABC and the New York Times and all these leftist papers that are sitting in the first couple of rows there at the press conferences. Get them out. Put in a new set of eyeballs, a new set of ears, a new set of pens, a new set of voices, and you will watch the narrative in this country change. I started this show by reading to you a write-up on Axios and telling you about what's in the New York Times right now, about how, you know what at the top of the New York Times is? It's not even about the 100 days. The number one thing on the New York Times right now is Trump's crypto firm poses unprecedented conflicts of interest, with a video of them slamming Trump and his family about crypto, trying to make him sound like he's some kind of corrupt human being. This is a guy who takes $0 for doing his job. Okay. So he's not sitting there selling stocks like Nancy Pelosi is and all these other different people who are taking advantage. Change the media, change the narrative, go back to the podcasts. You know, one of the other things that Levitt was doing was she was doing this MAGA minute, MAGA moment, MAGA update. I haven't seen those. Maybe she's still doing them, but they're not popular enough, which means that she hasn't given them to the media. So this way the media can run with them.
Agree. I mean, they were even doing deportation numbers through the ICE account, and they kind of stopped that. I mean, I love what they did with putting up all those posters of illegal aliens on the White House lawn. We didn't play the commercial just because there's a song in it, but they released this commercial promoting deportations, where the guy's like knocking on the door and arresting the illegal as he's watching TV about them speaking about illegals. So it's almost like how you said, right? Like, you know, we need to start live streaming the raids. We just need to publicize in a way every aspect of illegal immigration, deportation, and making it clear that this is what's actually happening. And it's a way to counter what, you know, people are seeing on the mainstream media side. And I think too, what you're saying here with the podcast of what he was doing in the lead up to the election, you know, he was going a lot. I mean, besides even Joe Rogan, who would be the top of the cream there, he was doing a lot of more unconventional interviews and with younger people too. I mean, when you look at the generational gap here, you know, that it's like that expression, right? Hard times create hard men create good times create weak men create weak times. And I think based on how Congress is right now, and even with our judicial system, we're in the weak times approach. So that means we're going to have some hard men created, and we're going to have a whole younger generation that's going to be wondering, wow, what is the next step? Because my country's being flooded with illegals. Inflation's making it so where I can't afford anything. And also there's just no sense of national pride or identity or culture, because, you know, some of these people who are coming in are just absolutely the worst of the worst. And one of the things too that was very influential in Trump's campaign was his son Barron. And I was thinking about this not too long ago. You know, if you look at Trump's kids, and you always reference it, you can always tell the stature of somebody by the way they raise their kids. And Trump's kids were all raised very well. With his three, right, Ivanka, Eric, and Don Jr., they got to experience almost the golden age of Trump, right? When he was doing The Apprentice, when he was building up, you know, New York City, they got to see just, you know, the kind of and the love that he got from all sides of the aisle. And then they were adults when that kind of became the opposite for him. With Barron, all he's grown up with is he was in the first Trump presidency in the White House, and he had to see people betray his father, people undermine his father, and his father be basically tossed under the bus. Then he had to watch his father basically get shammed out of the second election, I'm sure through means that were very unjust, quote unquote, and having to deal with all the legal lawfare that was tossed his way, and basically the weaponization of the justice system. And now you're here in the third term, and you know, you're seeing your father try his best to get the country on track, and he's still dealing with just a ridiculous judicial system. So someone like him and people of his age are seeing the way that the country is being impacted by these obstructionists. And my hope here is that they're going to take it and be like, you know what? If I run for office one day, I ain't doing any kind of special interest or trying to line my pockets. I want to see if I can run and really turn the country around, because I think, unfortunately, Trump is in a pool of a few men who really want to do that. But the pool of men like the Rand Pauls who really just want to line their pockets and self-interest are unfortunately a lot bigger.
So, I mean, just sticking on the media thing here for a second, you know, this is what Lisa Schroby writes. The idiots still turn on mainstream media and blindly follow their BS. Just had someone tell me Trump said he'd deport American citizens and he was going to kill Social Security. I assured her that is not happening. You know, it's a perfect example here. So with these little kids that were deported with their parents, right? Yeah. The New York Times, for one, is saying Trump is now deporting American citizens. That's not the way it works. Trump is deporting illegal aliens who had kids when they came here. All right. So you want to keep your kid here? That's fine. You got to go home. And then what happens is the parents are saying, no, I'm going to take my kid. All right, great. That's the way it should be. Don't try to guilt us into this thing that we're deporting American citizens. It's just not the truth of how it works. We deported their parents, and their parents said, I have custody over this child. I'm taking this child with me. That's that, okay? So with the media part, another woman writes here, Phyllis Walzak writes, I so agree with you on this, and the media needs to stop the lies and twisting the truth to try to trick and lay traps to trip up Trump and Levitt. But here's the problem, Phyllis. You're not going to change the mainstream media. You're not going to change them. They're always going to do it. That is their MO. So the best way to go about this is to eliminate them. Get rid of them. Don't use it. What's the greatest way to put a restaurant out of business? Don't go. Don't even talk about it. Just stop going. And if nobody's coming in to buy their stuff, then they close their doors. And that's what has to happen. But what Trump has done time and time again, and I've never understood it, he always gives these people the interviews. I mean, the piece of garbage journalist from the Atlantic who revealed all that had gone on in that Signal Gate with Pete Hegseth, Trump has given him an interview. Why? Why? Because you want to tell him that he's a scumbag? That's going to make you feel good? At the end of the day, he controls the camera. He controls the edit. He controls the pen. Keep these people out. These people need you. You don't need them. There's so many different ways to go about it with alternative media. The second thing, and going into my second of three things, Dennis, you talked about how it is that there's the younger generation. And the younger generation is struggling. There is a struggle. It is so damn expensive to be an American citizen. Mary, your mother and I just sat down last night. Wait until people hear this number. Mary and I just sat down last night, and I said to her, how much do you think it costs us to be us? We took our health insurance, our mortgage, our car insurance, all of our bills, everything, the tuition for your sister, the whole 9 yards, food, gas, whole 9 yards. It costs us $28,000 a month. I said to her, I said, Mary, this is why our money keeps on going down versus going up. And when you got a stock market that isn't going up, when you've got a business, our business is definitely slower. Everybody's business is slower than it has been. When you've got that, the numbers are going in the wrong direction. Now, I can cut back a lot of different things if I wanted to, right? But I could eat less. We could do a little bit less than we're doing. But at some point, I can't cut anymore. My mortgage is always going to be my mortgage. My taxes are going to be my taxes. My health insurance is my health insurance. What am I going to do? Quit my health insurance? So therefore, I look to my government and I say, you've got to ease my pain. So that's me. I mean, I've got a lifetime of savings. You're a young guy. You don't have it. You're living paycheck to paycheck. So many different people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah,
I read what people are writing here. And we have a lot of people who are older than me listening to this program. And they're saying, stop taxing senior citizens. Stop taxing people on home taxes who have already paid off their house. And I agree with this. We all must pay our taxes in order to fund the country. There's no doubt about it. But if you're somebody who's 65 and older, you've spent an entire lifetime funding this country. You should never be taxed again. You did your part. You made your contribution. That's it. Everything that you saved and your Social Security should be completely for you. If you're a person who has a home and you've been paying your property tax, which is going to school taxes and going to everything else, you should be able to stop if you don't owe any money on your home. That is yours. You paid it off. The state and the government should not be taxing you anything whatsoever. You should be able to live your life, your golden ages, without being taxed. You did your part. And that right there is something that if that were to be a Trump agenda, if that were to be something that Trump would push vigorously, and on top of that, with the tariffs and the tax breaks for corporations, you would see this country thrive. When Trump lowered the corporate tax rate to 21% back in 2017, all the economists, all the mainstream media idiots, All of them said that the country was going to have a shortfall of tax revenue, that we were going to go into a great recession, that there wasn't going to be enough money. Well, what wound up happening is that tax income wound up going through the roof. We wound up giving bigger cuts, and yet we collected more money as a country. Why? Because more people were working, more people were contributing to the system. And that is something that Trump knows. We've got to put that in place starting tomorrow. All of this stuff that I'm talking about has to start being pushed tomorrow more than anything else. And that's how you get people your age. That's how you get people my age. And that's how you get the people who are 65 and above all getting behind the MAGA movement. And it won't matter what the New York Times or what it is that the Daily News or what any one of these leftists try to put out, because their narrative doesn't fit what's in our wallet. Right now, they are trying to push a narrative that matches our wallet. We're hurting. We don't have enough money in our pocket. And so when the media says Trump's making a ton of money on his crypto and you're getting drowned, people are like, I'm not doing this. I didn't sign up for this. And that's one of the things that Trump is facing now. He has to improve this economy and make it a windfall for everybody. And that is what people vote on.
Yeah, I mean, in 1981, the average age of a U.S. home buyer was 31 years old. In 2024, it is now 56 years old.
There you go.
I think that portrays a pretty significant gap there.
Yeah. You can't buy. I mean, look, I know how much money you have in the bank. You are not going to be able to go out and buy your traditional 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. You're just not. You know, you got yourself a nice little condo. I look at Ryan. Ryan's 26 years old come this June. He has enough money to put down on a starter home, but he's just not going to be able to afford it between all the taxes and all the fees, and then all the everything costs so much money. Energy is costing so much money. You know, we heard a lot about Trump and how we were going to go back to being economically sufficient. We were going to go back to being reliant on ourselves. We were going to be independent from an energy standpoint. We need more of that. We need the drill, baby, drill. We need to be selling our energy outward, and we need to be lowering our prices inward because we have such a large supply of it. Biden stripped that from us. Trump needs to focus on that. One of the greatest costs that everybody has is the cost of energy, whether it's putting fuel in your car or whether it's heating your home or running air conditioning here in Florida. If you lower those bills, people are going to feel an impact. And what winds up happening when you lower those bills, companies feel an impact. And then companies will have more money to give to their employees and to reach out. Trump knows this. We've got to start implementing this immediately. So this way, the narrative is the country is humming. And when people have money in their pocket, they vote with that. They vote with that. So that has got to be one of Trump's biggest accomplishments now going forward. I don't want to hear any more about Ukraine and Putin. Screw them. I told you yesterday what to do with that, President Trump. Call them both up on the phone and say, I'm done. I'm finished. You guys do you want to wipe yourself out? Wipe each other out. I'm good to go. I'm calling up Xi Jinping. I'm telling them the same thing. Russia is like your stepchild. Either get them in place or we're going to have a problem with you and Russia. And then you call the EU. Get Ukraine in place. Get it solved. If you can, if you guys are going to have your little war, have your war. But the first second that you interrupt the flow of anything here in the United States, you interrupt our flow of money, our flow of life, you put us at risk at all, I'm going to start wiping you guys off the map. It's that simple. I'm just going to start wiping you off the map. I'm going to start it with sanctions, and then I'm going to tell anybody around the world that if they do any business with you, we ain't doing any business with them. And if I got to turn around and send out a couple of missiles, I'm going to do it. Don't screw with me. So focus back in on America. Let's get the focus in on America. The Pope dies, send J.D. Vance. Don't go to the Vatican. It doesn't matter. That Pope was a radical leftist anyway. What did we get out of that? We get nothing. We get zero. Just sit here at home, tackle, dot the I's, cross the T's, block and tackle the way you're supposed to, and watch how it is that everybody lines up with you. This is not a hard thing to do. It is the simple fundamentals of government. It's the fundamentals of business. That's all we need to do. Then the third thing, I go back to immigration. I have forever said that immigration is the one problem in the United States that touches everything. Everything. It is impacting the job market. It is impacting the price of a rental. It is impacting everything you do. Crime, schools, hospitals, judicial system, the drugs, you name it, it's causing a havoc. We've been focusing as a president on the bad dudes, the TDAs, the MS-13s. I even think we have a little B-roll, right, Ryan? Right now on the lawn of the White House right now, we've got all the bad guys, all the worst of the worst that the Trump administration has sent out. We've got the guys who have killed people. We've got the human traffickers. There it is. You can see it all lined up. It's all lined up there. All the bad hombres. Got it. But there's only 100 of them. That is not even a pimple on the elephant's ass. We need to get rid of the people who are screwing up everybody's life, costing us a fortune. These are the day laborers. These are the people who are taking over the seats in our schools. These are the people who are committing crimes and driving without licenses and just making it to where the legal system of the United States of America has been broken because we're allowing law-breaking individuals to be in this country. And I know the Democrats and the courts are going to try to do it all they want to do it. But if you put mandatory E-Verify in, if you make it to where these people can't have a job, they will go home. So we've got to get rid of these people. And if we get rid of these people by the tens of millions, not by the tens or the hundreds or the thousands, if we get rid of them by the millions, what happens? Your property tax goes down because you're not paying for these people to go to school. Your health costs will go down because we're no longer footing the bill for these people to use the emergency room as their primary care physician. We're not having Lolita plop out a $50,000 birth here in the United States of America. The amount of people in our jails will go down. So the funding that we need to give to them is going to be less. Your culture, what's the price? What's the price tag you put on losing your culture in the United States of America? There is no price tag. It's the end of the country. You get rid of these people and you show how you're getting rid of these people. More raids, more mass deportations, more I'll walk you down to the border. I want to see people self-deport. You start doing this and the American people and everybody around the world is going to realize that the rule of law is not something to be compromised with. We are going to put it into play. We are going to get money and we're going to get law back into our lives as Americans. That's how he does it. The mainstream media can't fight that. If you cut them out of your repertoire, your economy will skyrocket. Your illegal aliens, both incoming and outgoing, is going to be the kind of number that you can freaking stand up tall and get on any ABC, NBC and say, here's what we got. You want to have me interview? We're deporting everybody, and we have lowered costs incredibly. There you go. That's how it is that the Republicans will hold the seats in Congress, the seats in the Senate, and have the seat in the White House for the next 30, 40 years. That's what you got to do. It's a three-part plan. Everything else will fall into place.
I completely agree, and I think too. Just it also just stems down to rhetoric too. It's like when I hear, CNN use the 11 million number, or even JD Vance using 20 million. We know it's well over 50 million. So there needs just to be the concerted effort, whether it's through the administration, whether it's through an action through Congress, where we know before it's too late that we are getting mass deportations completely ramped up.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Here's a question from somebody we know, right? Sam. Sam says, what do you say to the idiots who say Americans won't work those illegal alien jobs? What do I say? There's a trophy here somewhere behind Dennis's head. I don't know if we could see it with the cameras. No, it's a little off center. There's a trophy right there. It says Entrepreneur of the Year, Dennis Michael Lynch. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting here in my office room. I do very, very well. I've done very well in my life. Do you know how I started out? I started out with a landscaping business. I was cutting lawns. I did it for years. When I was in high school, I was working for my gym coach. I was digging dry wells, for washer machines, when they emptying the water. I mean, my wife painted curbs. the numbers on curbs for the town. The jobs that are being taken right now by illegal aliens have forever been the jobs that Americans took. They were, in many cases, jobs for high schoolers and for college people. They were, many cases, the first step of a career for somebody, hanging sheetrock. You know how many, you go to guys right now who have contracting and home building businesses, and I guarantee you 8 out of 10, if not 9 out of 10, started off as painters, as the guy who just put up shingles, as the guy who basically, I don't know, did the small work, humping 2x4s for the contractor. And slowly but surely, they learned that trade, and then they started their own business. So what do I say? I say, go back and look at history. The white guy, the black guy, the American citizen was doing that job. They would still do that job to this day. It wasn't until we wound up open the gates, and then somebody said, why am I going to hire an American citizen for $15 an hour when I can hire this freaking guy from over the border for $7 an hour? That's how it started. And then it's just progressively gotten worse. If you get rid of these people, those jobs will open. And then I am telling you, they will be filled. They will be absolutely 100% filled. And the ones that aren't filled, let's say, for instance, you can't find anybody who wants to go pick the grapes at a vineyard. We have agricultural visas already in place. I don't have no problem with taking in migrants who want to do agricultural work, although I think AI and technology slowly but surely will eliminate the need for the physical part of that labor. But until that happens, if that's another 5-10 years away, I have no problem with having migrants come in here and doing agricultural work. Just as long as we're vetting them, just as long as we're keeping the farmers and the ranchers accountable, and then they have to go home. Seasonal work.
We might not even need them. I think if we had greater educational emphasis on wanting to get young people to want to work those fields and get into agriculture, we wouldn't even need the seasonal workers. The only person I want to see arrested more than the illegal alien are the people who are hiring them. I mean, when Trump was going on about how he wanted to get extend deportations beyond just the crazy criminals, you'd be, or maybe not so surprised, but a lot of people coming out of the woodwork like, this will kill my business. I'm like, well, you know what? You shouldn't have a business if your business hinges on hiring illegal alien workers.
We talked about that yesterday, right, Ryan? We talked about it. We said, what you weren't here. What we talked about was, you cannot say that our economy is based on illegality. If our economy is based on illegal workers, well, then we should all be able to do illegal. Why is it? Listen, DML CBD, right? If I started selling marijuana, which I would never do, I'd never used marijuana. I don't believe in drugs. But let's say, for instance, that I was able to sell cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and marijuana, and nobody was to ever come get me. I'd be making $10 to 10 times the amount of money I'm making. So why is it that I'm not allowed to do it? Because drugs are illegal, but yet the contractor down the block is allowed to hire illegal labor, and they're allowed to get away with it. They're allowed to get it. So it's some laws for you and some laws for me. That's not the way it should be. Nothing should be based on illegality. I talked about Tom, my buddy Tom, yesterday. I don't want to repeat the same thing for the people who listen to the show all the time. Tom, my buddy Tom, 64 years old, multimillionaire, has homes throughout the country, owns a big, huge building. I mean, this guy built his whole wealth on American labor. And I've asked him before, because a lot of his workers were workers in the back. There's the guys who are moving cartons around and the guys who are cleaning plastics. He could have gotten illegal labor. And he said, no, I went with the American labor. It cost me more money, yes. I also got a better job out of it by having American labor. I didn't break the law, and I did it the right way. So instead of having 6 different properties, could Tom have 10? Sure. But he did it the right way, and he employed people. And I bet you if Tom went back and looked at all the people that he's hired over the past 15, 20 years when he had his business before he sold it, and looked to see where those people are today, I bet you a lot of those people are either working a job similar to the one he gave them, but only at a higher level somewhere. Maybe they started their own version of the business that Tom had, or they used it to propel themselves into the next level of a career. I guarantee you almost all of them are going to wind up being huge successes. That is the progress that you're supposed to make. You start off small, you learn what you've got to do, you either go into a better career using the lessons that you learned at a lower level, or you leverage it and you start a business. I talked about this with your mother yesterday when we were going over the expenses. I said to her, do you remember how we started? Do you remember how I started? The way I started, I had my landscaping business. And then it was time I wanted to get married to your mother. And I didn't want to do that work anymore. I wanted to have more of a white collar than a blue collar job. That's just what I wanted to do. And so I sold my landscaping business to my brother, my younger brother. And what did I do? I went out and I started working for a computer company when that computer company was in its infancy. And I learned all that I needed to do. What was my job? I used to lug. I was using my muscle. I was driving trucks. I was cleaning computers. I was learning about hard drives. I was formatting them. I wound up getting my lesson. After a year and a half, I broke off and started my own computer company. And within a couple of years, I'm winning Entrepreneur of the Year with 200 employees. That's the way that progress is made. We've lost that in America because nobody champions for it anymore. Instead, we just go to look to get these foreign workers and we screw our own kids. Entrepreneurship is down in this country. It has been down year after year after year for freaking decades. That's what made us different. You could be whatever you wanted to be in this world. You could be whatever you wanted to be as an American citizen. Today, that's not true. It's just not true anymore. Somebody just wrote here, and I want to address it because I think it's a fantastic comment. Jean Bernardo says, when it snows, you can't find a kid to shovel for you today. I'll tell you why that is, Gene. It's not because the kids are lazy or that they don't want to make any extra money. It's because the kids realize that they're not going to go out and do the snow anymore because somebody else is out there doing it. The illegal aliens are doing it. And I know this for certain. We have a kid down the block here, good kid, wound up, he was looking to do some work. He wanted to do laborious work so he could save money for a car because his father said, I'll match whatever it is that you save for a car. He was knocking on our door. This kid came. He was cleaning my boat. He was cleaning my cars. He was doing all different little work around the house. I said, I'll keep on hiring him until I don't have anything anymore. What does he do? I just had this a year later, fast forward a year later. He comes knocking on my door with 2 other kids. I said, hey, what's going on? He says, Mr. Lynch, we started a power washing company. I said, really? He says, yeah, we bought 2 gas-powered power washers. I'd like to come and power wash all your brick because I got mold on the brick or whatever. My driveway's huge with bricks. I'm like, wow, look at the progress. He started off doing some remedial, laborious work, and he saved his money. He created a new opportunity for him with a power washing company. So you can find these people. I asked him when he came to my house, why don't you just go work for a landscaper? He says, I can't work for a landscaper. They won't hire me. They've got all these people don't speak Spanish. I mean, they don't speak English. They're all speaking Spanish. And I tell you that right now. You go up and down here in Florida on any given day, you are not going to find one high school kid working for these landscaping companies. And the reason being is because the landscapers are hiring foreign workers, illegal aliens. And to Ryan's point yesterday and to your point today, Ron DeSantis dropped the ball on this. And I love DeSantis. It's the only thing he's done that I don't like. And this is what I go back when I was talking about with the bill. If you wanted to put together a mandatory E-Verify, we have mandatory E-Verify here in Florida, but it is for 25 employees or more. So anyone who's got 24 or lower can hire these people. So what do? You always keep your number at 24, or if you got to get to 35, you create 2 companies. You create the tree company and you create the lawn company, and you hire all of them, and you cheat the system. And therefore, I'm not going to wind up hiring my American citizen. I guarantee you get rid of these people, and you will be flooded with high schoolers and college kids and people who didn't go to college, who are just looking to make a good wage and work hard. We will fill those jobs. We do not need these illegal aliens. The illegal aliens need us. And that's that. That's where it goes to, Dennis.
Just even add to it, I think more now than ever with the introduction of AI. I mean, when I was younger, there was so much more emphasis on getting into some kind of tech field or even something that would be computer based. And now, with the advent of what AI has been able to do in 4 years, that's kind of made it almost obsolete in a lot of those different realms. Whereas, work with actual physical labor to it, especially labor that is rewarding and something that can be done within your community. AI can't really replace that. I mean, you may get your robots out in the fields one day, but when it comes to coming over to a neighbor and power washing or installing a pool or anything to that nature, it's something that I think we can get definitely the younger generation to be not only excited about, but seeing the value to it rather than them being warped by some radical educator saying, "How about you get into gender theory?" I would love to see where all the people with gender theory degrees are today, which is probably the Starbucks shop.
So very interesting comment here from Donna Stewart, who just commented on the thing what I was saying with the landscaping. She says, "Sorry, I don't agree with your comment. It's because these kids are handed everything. Parents don't make these kids do anything. My kids own their own landscaping business and cannot find kids to work." So there's a bunch of questions I ask you, Donna, and I ask you these questions politely. First of all, because I love the fact that your kids started a landscaping business. So question number one is, how much are they looking to pay these kids? That's first and foremost, okay? Number two, I'm not going to deny at all that parents today are giving their kids a lot more than they used to. I'll give you an example, though, of why that may happen, okay? My first three kids, the only way that they got a car was they had to save money, they had to get a job, and I said I'd match their money. And I did it in each single case, and each single time. These kids drove basically what you would call a shit box. That's the first thing they did, made it as safe as I possibly could for them. And then very quickly, they realized, I want to have a better car, and they had a job. I remember Ryan. I made Ryan, we had a landscaper. Remember this, Ryan? We had a landscaper at our house, and I went to him, and he said, I'm having a hard time finding kids who want to work. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. I said, how much you paying? So he said, I think at the time he was paying, I don't know, $10 an hour, whatever. I said, well, maybe if you paid 15. He says, you think so? I said, $15 an hour, you're going to hire my kid right away. My kid's going to go work for you. He said, yeah. I said, absolutely. He hired Ryan, and he came back to me and said, my God, Ryan's one of the best workers, if not the best worker I ever had. What did he do? He upgraded Ryan and had Ryan driving the trucks. Ryan was running the whole crew, the whole 9 yards.
Trust me.
Yeah, then Ryan got all of his friends to go work. So if you pay a good wage, and it may cut down on how much your sons are going to wind up being able to put in their pocket at first, he may make a little less money, your son, by hiring my son and the other kids. But here's what's going to wind up happening. It's a trickle-down sort of thing. One of the reasons why I hired that landscaper is because everybody that worked for that company, albeit it wasn't a whole bunch, he said he couldn't find the labor until he did, because he upped his money a little bit. I paid extra for him to come cut my lawn because everybody who was cutting my lawn was an American citizen who wound up speaking English. So instead of paying $20 a week, I was willing to pay $25 a week because I knew that ultimately I was helping my own cause. And so all these kids were going out to work. So my contention is, how much are you paying? Number two is, I go back to what I said about my kids buying cars. My fourth kid, Kelly, I couldn't do that for her because she was able to drive here in Florida, but she still wasn't old enough to go get a job. And she couldn't get a job because she had no time after school. So what I say, I'll lay out the money now. You're going to pay it to me later on. And you got to get a job in the summer. You're going to either work at a camp or you're going to work babysitting or whatever it may be. But the point being is that you can make the argument that I gave my kids something today that I didn't used to give it to them yesterday. The circumstances changed. When my daughter comes to me and she says to me, Dad, I can't find a job doing anything. All the jobs are all taken by other people. What am I supposed to do? This is a cultural change. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen in time.
And I want to, it's funny you just say that. It is almost very, very much related to cultural. I mean, when I used to do catering, my boss at the time, who was a friend of ours, she didn't want to just hire anyone, someone who can't speak English or is just kind of doing the bare minimum. She wanted workers that were personal and would also do the hard work. And when I was doing catering for those summers, I mean, you remember I would be at parties for long, long hours. I would be there for the setup, for the actual catering. I would literally change in the parking lot, and then I would be there for the breakdown. We'd be getting done at 2 a.m., but I would work my tail off because I knew at the end, even though I'm getting paid a standard wage, I'd be getting tip money. And it was like the desire for it. But I wasn't just going through the motions. I would be, busting my butt, bringing the equipment down to the beach if it was a beach party, and then I'd be personable to the people at the party. You think about how many times as a family, right? We've been to a restaurant or to an event, and you get that kind of caterer that is one really just stuck up, or server, I should say, that's stuck up, or just can't even speak English to you, and the communication factor is ridiculous. I would be there, I'd be personable, I'd be talking, I'd be asking how they're doing, what can I do for you, and when you do that, the reward is great some. And now I just feel that we've entered an era where maybe kids are feeling discouraged because they could put in the hard work, but they're not seeing the results, given back to them.
Dennis, it's at the same time too, I get another comment here that I think leverages off what you just said. This is from Leonie Jacobs Nera. She writes, "The unfortunate thing with the young people today is that they are so addicted to their phones and playing games. They are lazy and don't want to work. I am a legal citizen and definitely don't want people to be here illegally." So I want to take what Leonie here said. The unfortunate thing with the young people today is that they are addicted to their phones and playing games. Okay, you know who I don't blame for that? I don't blame the kid.
Mm-hmm.
I blame the parent.
Yep.
You know what? I'm going to throw my wife under the bus here a little bit. So everybody who watches the show all the time knows that my wife, Mary, going about 6 weeks ago, all of a sudden just went, it was like the most bizarre thing in the world. She couldn't stand up without assistance. She can't walk without assistance. She was in the Mayo Clinic for almost a week. Neurological test here, neurological test there. Came back and they said, we don't know what caused this. Great news is she doesn't have a life-threatening disease or no tumors or anything like that. We see this happen about 30% of the time. We'll never be able to know what happened, but it has to be, she's going to have to be treated like a stroke victim. Her brain, for whatever it is, something triggered her brain to forget what her balance is. And so her brain doesn't trust she's going in the right direction. If we've shown the videos, my wife looks like the most drunk person you've ever seen in your life. She can't walk a straight line. We got to all hold her up. So over the course of these weeks, I have been trying to push her to work harder. She goes to PT 3 times a week, and I'm pushing and I'm pushing. What my wife has become obsessed with, and I understand it completely, is she wants to know what caused this. She wants to have the exact PIM. I need to know what this is. I need to know what this is. And I said, no, you don't. Let's just get you walking again because it's freaking detrimental to you and it's detrimental to everybody else around you. We got to work harder. And so it started to happen. My wife just started getting caught up in being on the phone, trying to find out. She's reading Reddit themes and she's going and watching 50,000 different videos. So I went in the other day. We had a total fight over this. I went in the other day and I said, why aren't you up trying to walk around? Why aren't you in the pool walking around? And she's like, I'm researching. I took her phone and I looked. She was spending 5 to 6 hours a day on the phone researching shit. I took the phone. I opened the slider door and I threw it in the pool. Today, we're going to get a new phone. Your mother hasn't had a phone for 4 days. Guess what your mother has been doing for 4 days? Practicing her practicing her walking, doing it without her walker. I just said to her yesterday, I said, are you not seeing the advancements you're making? She goes, I'm seeing the advancements I'm making. I said, how do you like the fact that you're not on your phone for 5-6 hours? She goes, I tell you what, I don't miss it. Yeah. So if we were to strip those phones from these kids or allocate, you've got certain amount of time to be on that phone and then it's off, you would force your kids to go back out and do things without that phone.
Yeah, I was just talking to Ashley about this where, I think we're going to see the future generations of parents realize what we just went through the last 20 years with the advent of smartphones and how it basically melts children's brains. And yeah, Ashley says all the time, when I have kids, they're not getting a phone or an iPad until they're well way into their later teenage years, because it really does. It corrupts the brain. I mean, even going back to with the work thing, when I was catering at night, I was a camp counselor during the day, and when I was on a date recently, she had asked like what my favorite age group of kids was when I was a counselor, and I always wanted between 5 to 8, because the youngsters were just too little as toddlers, and that was too much. But the older teenage kids were always on their phones and on their iPads, and then they were trying at every venture and moment to try and be attached to some kind of technology. Whereas my age group of kids, they didn't like have that, and they were able to just have fun, play dodgeball, play our tennis lessons, and be more, proactive and in the moment. And it's painful to see when you go to a restaurant and you see the family around at the table and the kid is stuck with an iPad, because it distracts them. I'd rather them, if they can't be in conversation because it's a bunch of adults, I'd rather them just have the coloring book, because at least that's, promoting some kind of a form of creativity, or doing like the little crossword puzzles, because usually they're watching some, brain dead show. And when we've seen how kid shows today are more brain dead than ever. So it's really disheartening when you see kids at such a young age exposed to that kind of technology. And yeah, then by that note, they become addicted to it, and it becomes their life. I think, digital screen intake needs to be limited by everyone at all ages, because too much of it, you just start to develop headaches. You develop eye vision problems. It becomes a daunting issue you don't recognize until later on, when you realize, okay, all these issues, is it because my head has been stuck in the phone 24/7, and that's why I have that neck pain? So I'm hopeful that at least in future generations, they realize, you know what, this needs to be limited for kids. There needs to be there are hours where they could be on it if it's for educational purposes. But for the most part, I like to see them outside and playing. It's just, as you know, that we're in a world now where back in the 80s and 70s and even 90s, you could be out playing on the streets with kids and not have to worry about, crazy loonies out there. Whereas I think, that possibility is unfortunately higher today.
Another thing to put out before we say goodbye here. This woman, Linda, writes, "My grandson started his own car wash company when he was 16. What a story he has. This is one proud grandmother." We have a guy, fully American guy. He is back when I had my big boat. He used to do detailing. He came and detailed my boat. It was done incredibly well. He says, I also do cars. Okay, great. It's not the most cheapest thing in the world, but periodically I get the cars done. The kid comes, he does a great job. It's spotless. When I call him to have him come, he's always 4 or 5 weeks booked out. No, this is not a job where he gets to go to say somebody, oh yeah, I'm a lawyer and I do this and I do that, whatever it may be. I mean, he's like, yeah, I'm a car detailer. Is it the most glamorous thing in the world? No, it's not the most glamorous thing in the world. But I'll tell you what, the kid charges $500 every time he's here. He's loaded. He's got tons of money. And so when you look today, you know what may actually be to answer some of these people that are saying stuff? I said yesterday, I'm going to say it again today. And again, I had the conversation with my wife. I was saying, Mary, immigration has always been my thing. And it's been my thing for 20 years. And I'm a little tired of it, to be quite honest. And the border is now boring. And it's going to stay like that for a while. So what's there, we're just going to talk about deportations all day long? I said, I want to find my next, I could talk about any conversation, and I have a lot of different expertise in different areas and a lot of experience in different areas. But I said, I want to hone in on one more level of expertise while I still have some life left in me. And what I am so interested in is AI. I don't understand it fully. I need to understand it better. But there's some certain things about it that I know for certain. And a lot of the jobs that you're seeing today being the highest level jobs are going to go away. AI is going to replace it like nothing you've ever seen before in terms of replacement. What's not going to happen is the guy who does the detailing of the cars, the guy who does the landscaping, the guy who hangs the sheetrock. the traditional jobs that made America what it was, those jobs are going to come back because a computer system can't paint your house. A computer system can't clean your car. A computer system can't freaking hang roofing. All right. A computer system can clean your pool. I mean, there's going to be some of those things, right? I mean, I have one of those now. I have one of those systems now. It's internet based. I hit it, cleans my whole pool. It's all said and done. The only thing I need a guy for really is to do the chemicals. And if I needed to cut back on expenses, which I am, it's probably the first thing I'm going to do because I could just pour the chemicals in, and I've got the machine that's going to clean the pool for me. The point is, the future, the jobs of the future, are going to revert back to the jobs that we all started doing. And when you say to somebody, I detail cars, they're going to look at you and be like, yeah, maybe I should do that too. Because AI has taken every other job. Maybe I should do that too. And it's going to become the glamorous jobs that get the most money, So if I had, if I had a young kid today, if one of my boys came to me and they were 14, 15 and said, Dad, what should I be when I grow up? I'd say, well, you know what I'd look into being? I'd look into being an electrician. You could probably make yourself an incredible amount of money as an electrician. I would be a plumber. I would be, and I'd go down those jobs, those blue collar jobs that you can wind up making a fortune on.
Debbie Hobson's asking, what happened to DML's hand? I didn't even realize.
Oh, so for people who we're now in our office here. So this way we're not in the studio because I need to be close to where your mother is. So we had some plastic plants in the studio, and I took them home here, and I grabbed the plastic plant, and the plastic on one of the plant things penetrated my hand, and it hit my bone. And so I've been putting ointment on, and so I have ointment on, and I'm just trying to cover it so this way I don't touch anything else. But let me tell you, it hurts like a son of a gun. But it's getting better every day, your mother says. I don't know. Anyway, good way to end the show. That's what happened to my hand. All right. You know what else? This is great transition for DML CBD. So what I do is I wound up putting on some bacitracin just to make sure that it doesn't get infected. And then what I do is I put the Miracle Me oil on it and the hand and cream. And the thing has gone like completely from horrible to less than horrible in a matter of days. So I suspect within another couple of days, it will be much better. But that said, DMLCBD.com, buy one, get one free, ends tomorrow. DMLCBD.com, get a buy one, get one free for anything on the website. Anything at all is a buy one, get one free. We're not going to have another BOGO until the end of July. So make sure you get in there. Do not make a mistake and not do that. And of course, if you're not part of the 47 Report, if you don't get the 47 Report newsletter every day, go to 47report.com, sign up starting tomorrow morning, and every day, 7 days a week, you'll get the 47 Report newsletter, which gives everything that the Trump administration is doing. And it also shows what the resistance is trying to stop him from doing. It's one of the best newsletters you will ever read, if not the best. And then by default, you get the second best newsletter ever made, which is the DML Report, which comes on most days later in the afternoon. So go to 47report.com, put your email address in, and we will never sell it. We will never share it. It's just between you and us, baby. All right. Thank you so much for participating. We went very long today, and that is because there will be no show this Friday. This Friday, we have a lot of moving to do, and we just cannot facilitate that move without just giving up on something. And the show here takes us so many hours in the morning. So we gave you a longer show today. We'll be with you again, God willing, tomorrow. But Friday, there will be no program. All right. Until the next time, may God bless you, your family, these United States, our president and vice president. And who do we have on Team DML?
Today's Team DML blessing goes out to Timothy Black.
Oh, Timothy Black. I know Tim Black. All right, Tim. Talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.